we're amazing. We're an amazing group of women that we have come through all of that with a semblance of sanity.
What is the story behind you deciding as a young woman, I'm going to become a Sister of St. Louis?
Well, I can't give, I remember it used to bother me that I could never give this kind of theological reason for entering religious life. Because some people had it, well, I just wanted to be of service in my faith and all that. It was none of that in me at all. It was like I was constantly being magnetized by God. It was like as if I was always drawn. Something was drawing me into whatever was to evolve. And after my father died, maybe about a year, my mother said to me, what do you think you'd like to be? And I said, well, I think I want to be a veterinarian, or I would like to be a nun, to be a sister. Well, she didn't like the nun part. And she wanted me to become a pharmacist, and she was tempting me all the time, and we could get a little car, and I would have to do you have to do 2 years with a pharmacist before you embark on your university. Well, that wasn't attractive at all to me. So eventually it happened, and my brother, the first one to earn was the scientist. And so I remember asking him and saying, his name was Patrick Mary. I said, Pat, I think I really would seriously like to be a sister, but I don't know what it's like to be away from home. Now, all the others were boarders, but because of my father's death, then I stayed at home with my mother. Well, also, I didn't get the scholarship. I was the only one of the 5 of us didn't get a scholarship into high school, so I was the dumb clock, but I had music. So looking back on it, the providence of God and the fact that I was gifted all my life with music, it was my companion, and it was my healer. Because, and I'll tell you this briefly, because I'm so healed. I was clergy abuse at age 8 in my own home, and turning age 15 after my father died, 6 months after my father died. And I am today a totally healed, profoundly healed, happy woman. That's the nervous breakdown. This is major. Because I never shared it, the abuse, the options open to me were I would end up on the street. I had no self-esteem. I was worthy of nothing. Nothing. And that's what happens to these victims. No self-esteem. I'm a dirty girl. Something inside of me seduced those 2 men. And that's what goes on.
And of course it's not true.
No. But to think that I'm here today, a beautiful, happy woman. I wouldn't change my life for all the money in the world. I wouldn't change any part of
it. You were talking about how wonderful the community was to you when you had those 8 years, 77 to 5,
8 years and of course then it was no work, no money. And of course that I was guilty, naturally, with my background. And then also to tremendous suffering. The nuns didn't know what to do with me. Nobody would talk to me. They were walking as if they were on eggshells. Nobody knew how to deal with depression. And but I hung in and they hung in with me. Leadership was tremendous. Sister Antonia was here as superior when I asked. It's extraordinary, actually. I think about how I knew I was digging. I was constantly digging, digging for answers, and yet could never tell anyone. I could never tell anyone that this abuse happened. And but at some stage I knew that the evil spirit was within. I could experience that here in that 77, my last year here. So I went to Antonia and said, I need help. And she was fabulous. She also knew I needed help. So that meant I was okay. She was supporting me. She saw something of what I was experiencing. And then the next step was to go to the regional leader, and that was Sister Canis, and she was totally supportive. And then I went to Bridget Clare to get the name of a psychiatrist. When I broke down in 77 here at Louisville, at the peak of a choral career. And then, you know, sabbatical. At that stage you couldn't call it a nervous breakdown, it was a burnout. But for me, I had to call a spade a spade. And, but the extraordinary thing about it is that the breakthrough was fabulous. And music therapy, I was allowed to go back and study music therapy in Long Beach State from 81 to 85, take it slowly, and then was hired by Lanterman. In working for the state, my identity began to evolve. I am Nuala Ryan, daughter of God. Lanterman was founded in 1927, and there were probably close to 2,000, maybe 2,000 and a half clients in this place. It was in Pomona, and it was called Pacific State Hospital.
And tell us about the clients. What were they? Who were they?
They were our brothers and sisters who were born with developmental disabilities or attempted suicide. But once you befriend them, all they need, they're screaming for somebody to be present to them, to sit with them, to laugh with them.
So these people were such a gift to you.
Yes.
Because you had to put down your perfection and everything that had been driving you your whole life, and you had to just be with them, and they had joy.
And to be with beauty in its ultimate reality, and that is soul. I came home. And I remember the day that my supervisor, I was hired, and she brought me to the unit where I was going to be working, and Unit 59. And a voice inside of me said, "You are home." And I did not know, of course, what that meant until it began to evolve. So,
and was it these people you were home with?
Yes. Yeah, they manifested what it is to be truly human in brokenness, in the beauty of brokenness. I might meet them, some of them I might meet 8 and 10 times a day, and every time they would say, "Nuala," and then they just riveted their eyes in mine, and it was like as if they were drinking me in. There's just no inhibition. We're afraid of that in this what we call real world. That's the real world. This is the real world. And then they have no agenda. You know, that society is just so tortured. You know, tortured with consumerism and speed. And I've hope for the Pope when he does something about women. That's how I feel about women in the church. I have hope for Pope Francis until when he does something about women, then I'll say you're great. I'm not lured, easily lured. Do something about. I think there would be peace in the world if women had the rightful stance. Men and women, all, forget the women and the men, forget the genders. Just everybody is equal. I mean, that won't happen.
What's amazing to me is how much you notice and appreciate. How can I even put it into words? You've had some hard times, and yet you turn it around and see all these people that you meet as such a gift to you in your weakness. It's I can't put words on it, but it's a beautiful thing.
It's biblical. Jesus said, in my weakness, or Paul said, in my weakness lies my strength. And then what's happening for me since 2008, since I retired, I'm having a ball. I mean, I didn't know I wasn't happy 2008. I mean, I was. But I am ecstatic. These are the best years of my life. No structure. No structure. And then when I retired, the friends would say, you're going back to Ireland to retire? Where are you going to volunteer? Are you going, are you going to travel? And the more they talked to me, I was exhausted. I could feel myself just limp and saying, I think what I'm going to try to do is learn to do nothing. No thing. Be nothing. Well, I didn't have the be nothing then, but to do nothing, because this was always, part of me, the go, go, go. But out of that, then I began to think about that and said, well, what is my volunteer work? And this phrase came to me: the umbrella under which I volunteer in life, which all of us do, was show up, and wherever you are, be fully present. Show up in life. Now it's unbelievable how God is using me. I wish that all elders throughout the world could realize that these are the contemplative years of our lives. And that if all of us sat down for an hour a day to bring peace to the world in contemplation, I believe we could change it. But that's the idealist in me. But I have a hunch I know it. I'll hang in with St. Louis, because they hung in with me. So, how far have I wandered?
This is a paper, Sister Nuala on the cover, with her work with this organization. And what's the organization called again?
It's called Lanterman Developmental Centre.
Lanterman.
And this was the April 18th, 2008 copy of the Los Angeles Times. And the same day, the Pope appeared on the back page. So there was,
well, let's put it down now, because
I was at a deanery meeting when I became chaplain. I was the first woman to infiltrate the male deanery 12. And so Monsignor Loughnane, who was the dean of the deanery, we arrived for a meeting on the day that this was printed. And we were all sitting down, and of course I knew about it, but I didn't know that he knew. And so he produced from his case, he said, we have very interesting news today. He said, we have somebody here present who has the front page of the Los Angeles Times, while the Pope, who is in the country, has the back page. So anyway, that broke the ice.